Government Property here. Today we're going to talk about how the mind and the body processes trauma. I call it the mind-body separation. Um, so long story short, for those of you that um, go, well, the mind is part of the brain. No, the brain is part of the body. The mind it's an interesting thing in the field of psychology as mind, consciousness, soul, spirit, essence, whatever you want to call it. There's no real consensus on the specific location it's located in. Some people will tell you it's little bits all over the brain. Some people tell you it's in the body. Some people, anyways. But it's not really material to what we're going over. It's just explaining that there's no real consensus on where the mind is located versus where the brain is located. Now, when it comes to how the body processes trauma, mind and body, the mind tends to be very logical. It tends to go, I was in an automotive accident. I had the right of way. They T-boned me. I suffered injury. And it can very easily just put it out there and process it. And there may be some, anxiety that comes from the reaction or from the thinking of it. Some pain brings up memories of, injury, whatever. But the body's very different. The body, takes a snapshot of your baseline before the incident and a snapshot of you after the incident. And then it goes and looks at there's dozens of fields, but it's based on your 5 perceptions. You're going to have, it's going to be your body on the sense of touch is going to be going, what was the temperature outside, the humidity, was the wind blowing, was there certain factors, was sunlight, cold air, smell, the smells in the air, sense of smell, the sense of sight, not so much what was in the visual parameter, but was it day or night, was it dark or light, was there lights in the eye, were you having trouble seeing, your hearing and sound, the sounds that were around you, maybe you didn't hear all the sounds, were you playing music, was there no, could you have heard the thing? And so what will happen when it comes to trauma, a lot of times, this is one of the roots of post-traumatic stress, is that in this moment, your body takes a snapshot, and then it goes, we need to make sure this never happens again. So what it does is it puts together a series of measures, so to speak. It goes, if these fields, if this is the fields of what happened, this is what happened, these are the fields, the way they're set up, if we start getting close to those, we're going to start warning you. And this is where you can get senses of dread, senses of anxiety. It's where you're like, I'm coming up to an intersection, I'm driving, and oh, it was a blue car that hit me, there's a blue car. And like little things that'll start triggering the anxiety. And also the avoidant behavior, because it tends to build up and just overwhelm, because the body's going, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to be in that situation again. So what happens is as you process, as you deal with it, the body is going to be the core processor of anxiety in the body. The mind is going, I've driven this 100 times. We were in an accident 6 years ago. Nothing bad has happened. I've driven this 100, dozens of times. Why am I suddenly feeling dread now? Why am I suddenly feeling apprehension now? And it creates a confusion between the mind and body. So with the mind-body separation, it's how you process. Because the mind is very logical, the body is very data-driven. And so you can end up with that problem. Now, there are, like I said, as I began explaining at the beginning of the video, there are some who will say, well, your mind is part of your brain. Maybe yes, maybe no. The issue with that is the concept that no system turned against itself works. You take, case in point, you take 2 hoses pumping in equal pressure and put them into a single pipe, and the goal is to push water out one side or the other. They'll meet in the middle, they'll pressurize, nothing will happen. You give a computer two conflicting commands that have to operate. I mean, like, this one must operate, but this one must also operate. They can't both operate at the same time, but they have to operate at the same time. A direct paradox. This system will just lock up. Same thing goes with the human body. If you're nothing but your brain, and you're trying to give yourself a command, and there's 2 conflicting commands, run or fight. So fight or flight. So somebody has to make a decision. And you can't, you'll lock up. I mean, deer in the headlights. Another great example of this is, well, you can do both. Yeah, you can. But you can, like everybody knows that you put your hand in hot water, boiling hot water, the initial biological response is to pull it out. You can force it to stay in there. It hurts, it burns, it's going to sear the nerves off, all that jazz. But you can force it to stay in there. And this is one of many examples of how your mind and your body are not the same, or not one and the same. Another example is for those people who go to the gym. Your body does not want to work out. I mean, you do it enough and it'll like it because it's used to it, it's a pattern. But if you decide you're going to pump more iron or put in more effort into what you're doing, your body doesn't like it. It doesn't want to do it. You force it to do it. Another example of that. Um, there's a book called, and this goes into how the body processes trauma. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. I had to look up who the author was. It's something that many counseling students and licensed therapists read during their education. And the point behind this book is quite simple. It's to explain how our body holds trauma, processes trauma, versus how our mind processes trauma. Like I said, mind is very logical, body is very environment-driven, evidence-driven. And you'll see people who, like I said, this is one of the key areas of post-traumatic stress, is not that the mind remembers the injury, the mental injury. It's that the body remembers the mental injury. And in it remembering that mental injury, it's going to sit there and try to protect you from that situation again. And so when you go into that situation, when you go into dealing with that situation, you're going to run into that issue of, hey, the closer I get to those triggers being set off again, the more apprehension, anxiety, dread, fear you're going to feel, because the body does not want to go back to doing that again. And so if you've experienced anxiety, or like you've experienced something that gave you anxiety or gave you, a phobic reaction, like there's many people who have phobic reactions due to like getting bit by a dog when they were a child, now they fear dogs. And it's because their body, like their mind is going, it's just a dog, why am I afraid? But their body's going, it's a dog, it's going to hurt me. And it's a very irrational reaction, but it's because their body's trying to protect them. And hopefully that helps, just give some insight into the mind-body separation, that the way your body reacts to things and tries to protect you from things is not the way your mind sees it or processes it. And hopefully this has been educational, informative. If you like what I'm doing, leave a like, subscribe, leave some, if you like, leave a message, share it with those who you think might be beneficial, or if you just want to annoy people, share it with them too, because it's what I do. Other than that, I'll catch you later. Government Property out.